Alright, we're going to be talking about the FaceFX exporter from Maya that we got from the 2010 evaluation installer for FaceFX. We're going to make sure the plugin's loaded by going to the plugin manager. FaceFX.mll is loaded. And we've got our sample character Slade Up, who is found in the sample source directory of the no save evaluation and install folder. And to bring up the plugin interface, we're going to launch the FaceFX.mel script that was also in the install but in the Tools Maya folder, FaceFX.mel. And now we can see the interface for the plugin. It's broken down into three sections: the reference pose, the nodes, and the animations. Slade's a bones-based character, so we're going to export a reference pose. Go to frame 0, where Slade's in a neutral position. Click Export. Select the bones that we want FaceFX to control. In this case, it's all the bones. And now we have a reference pose, and we can export bone poses one at a time by going to Export and then typing the bone pose name, like Open. We could then go to a different frame and import Open, like that, or import the reference pose back. But to do things a little quicker, we're going to batch export all the poses, and we need to find a batch export text file, which is included in the install as well in the samples source directory. And this is just a simple text-based format which has the pose name and then the frame number. This neutral is not required for the reference pose, but we use it so that when we import poses, we get the reference pose imported back in. And we get a couple warnings when we do this, that some of the poses, like that neutral pose, are the same as the reference pose. But in this case, that's not a problem. And also that some nodes were overwritten. We've got neutral defined a few times. We also re-exported Open. So now we've got an actor file with the reference pose and bone poses defined. If this were a morph character and you're using the plugin, you could select morph target nodes and do a batch export, and that would export all morph targets in the scene. If you're in FaceFX Studio, simply loading up your ogre content will bring morph target nodes in as well. Now, because we have some nodes here to drive, if we had an animation with curves with the same name as the node, we would get them animated. When we generate an animation, it uses the default mapping, which has node names like Open and W, SHCH, capitalization matters. So if we generated an animation here, we would be able to get some simple lip synchronization. This is an evaluation plugin, so the plugin is phrase locked. When we click on Generate Animation, it tells us that we need to make sure our audio has specific text. Welcome to FaceFX. I've always wanted to say this. Live from New York, it's Saturday night. As long as my audio file says that, it should analyze correctly. And I have a sample that's included in the install where that's said. So now I've generated an animation, and it should have the lip synchronization curves driving these nodes. If I clean the timeline, I don't have any animation in the timeline anymore. I can import that animation, and you can see that Slade's mouth is moving with those targets, and his tongue targets as well. Now we're not getting any head movements or blinks or eyebrow raises or squints. Those curves are also generated and they're inside of this animation, but the nodes aren't in this actor file yet to be driven. The reason is because we've defined the blink bone poses as blink left and blink right. We need a face graph setup that has a blink node that drives both left and right together, and we haven't created that setup yet. Now, if you're just using the plugin, you could use FaceFX Studio free and create that face graph setup, or import a template with a face graph setup that you're using. But in any case, you would need some face graph setup in order to get those gesture curves that move the head around and things. But that's a introduction to the FaceFX plugin. An important thing to note is that the plugin, even when not licensed, everything is available except for the Generate Animation is phrase locked. So for professional users, you don't need a license because you have everything you need. You can generate animations in FaceFX Studio. And for plugin users, you can test it out with the phrase locked version and then purchase a license when you want to generate animations with arbitrary text. Check out FaceFX.com. the tutorials and the forums if you have any questions or difficulties.